Intro, fancy, whatever. So in Planetside 2, there's a vehicle called the Sunderer. It's an armored personnel carrier you can deploy into a mobile spawn point for your team, but no deploying in proximity to enemy capture points or other deployed Sunderers. Of all the vehicles in the game, it's the one I use the most, usually because I'm very picky about where one's placed and turn my nose up at Sunderers in locations I consider too pedestrian, which is usually most of them because I'm snobby like that. So mine are mostly wedged up in cliffs somewhere or stuffed into rock formations in some flanking position, and as a consequence, I did invest in the Cloak Sunderer, and it's the one I use the most because my playstyle works well with it. But when I get asked for advice on Sunderers, I usually tell people to go with a deployment shield. That and one rank in the rival combat upgrades so the vehicle doesn't flip over and catapult off a cliff just because you ran over a small rock. And there's a reason why. The deployment shield has the best insurance against team killing. Just the other day, I was on an ammo resupply Sunderer that I deployed to the side of the road near a group of 5 or 6 tanks, and it was the only supply of vehicle there with no ammo towers nearby. But I saw a guy run up to it and bomb it with mines so he could place a stock Sundy with no ammo or repairs in its place. How he afforded 3 engineer mines with 0 Sundy upgrades, only Higby knows. But I'd say, if you have a Sunderer that's going to be used as a spawn point, if it's not in an obscure flanking position, it's not unlikely what kills it is going to be a teammate that wants to replace it. The irony being, unless you're pulling in tons of deployments or it lasts quite a long time, the points from Sunderer spawns aren't actually very good. One single medic revive is worth 15 Sunderer spawns, and one baseline kill is 20. Chances are, the time someone spends team killing a Sundy, moving one to its spot, the resource expense of the Sundy plus the team kill mines, all could have been spent doing virtually anything else and would result in more points than the entire life's worth of the Sundy. In fact, just the resources on 3 or 4 revive grenades might do that by themselves. The deployment shield, though, is designed specifically to resist attempts from single enemies to destroy it, and to kill a DS Sundy inside of 5 seconds without resupplying, you need 4 to 5 engineer mines, or a heavy assault with both C4 and AV grenades, both of which can bug out and fail to detonate. And those have very expensive buy-ins, so only a few players run them. Additionally, people that extensively try to team kill other Sunderers to get the deployment points are usually pretty dumb and can't plant the mines properly. The first rank of deployment shield is a cheap 50 certs, so I usually recommend it, especially for players on a budget, since the shield will defend it enough to reimburse the cost. And while the first rank in rival combat won't technically reimburse points, it'll reimburse by preventing you from getting a brain aneurysm when you drive it. The deployment shield is basically the closest thing the game has to auto insurance, and most people that pull Sunderers are going to use it eventually. There's also the fact newer players often don't know how to navigate to good locations, and if they would pull a Sunderer at all, they just move it along the established battle lines they see, meaning they're in positions where a deployment shield is especially helpful against the inevitable C4 ESF attack, not to mention cheap compared to a Cloak's 2,330 cert price tag. Sunderers in these more standard positions are also a lot more vulnerable to the team kill attempts, whereas ones hidden away up in cliffs are less contested. But on the subject of the Cloak Sundy, I already want to block spawn-ins from randoms, but I'd also like the ability to lock weapons without having to kick all the occupants out of the vehicle. I've tried giving people a ride a few times, but they can't seem to resist firing the basilisk and attracting attention, so I've started locking it as soon as I pull it, and ignoring transport requests, rather than just locking it at the deployment point like I normally did. Even people that are fairly high level still can't seem to understand Stealth Sundy means not shooting at things. I've also noticed, for example, in biolab fights, where there's a lot of enemies fighting over the air platform entrances, if the defenders own a nearby base with a jump pad, few if any will actually use it to flank the attackers on the air platform. Oftentimes I just put a Sundy by the flanking pad and do my thing completely unnoticed by both sides. I've talked about this before, but you can go a long ways through Planetside 2 missing important information. Some people probably don't even think about Sunderer positioning because they instant action hop around and just use whichever vehicle is closest, without much thought to where one would be better positioned. Which hooks back into the team killing point earlier. There's usually a worthwhile flanking spot available that'll put you in a position to get a lot of points rapidly that'd be a much more worthwhile investment than team killing a vehicle to take its place. I don't want to lock the vehicle and kick the average Joe off the bus, but it's for the greater good. I took their seats so the people could have the spawn point. It was for the people, I tell you. The redistribution of respawns. From noob according to his trigger finger, to noob according to his redeploy. Ah, communism. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of value in repair and blockade armor Sundies, but if you want to deploy one and have it still be there after you left for 2 minutes to go shoot things, and not have to be a stay-at-home bus babysitter, you want the D. S. I'll see you next time.